Well, it's not all Batman movies. Hey everybody, welcome to Mainly Movies. Today I'm going to be talking about my top 5 non-DCEU DC movies. If you're new here, please consider subscribing for a variety of movie-related content like reviews, rank lists, and trailer reactions. Well, it's the first Saturday of the month, so that means it's time for another episode of the Movie Nerds Club. In honor of the release of The Suicide Squad this week, we decided to talk about DC movies, with a bit of a twist. After you watch my top non-DCEU DC picks, make sure you check out the videos of the other members of the Movie Nerds Club, who are now too numerous to individually name. Links to their videos are in the description below. It's pretty crazy how many comic book movies there are now. In last month's video, we talked about Marvel and the plethora of movies they have outside of the MCU. This month, we turn our sights to the other big comic publisher, DC. Now, DC also has a cinematic universe for its properties, but it's nowhere near as prolific as the MCU, just recently breaking into double digits. But before the DCEU came around, and before the MCU came around, DC was pumping out movies, and they haven't stopped, even with the advent of their cinematic universe. There are more than 30 non-DCEU live-action films, and nearly 70 animated ones, so there were quite a few options for this list. As with the last month, I had intentions of keeping this as franchise diverse as possible, but the list didn't necessarily cooperate with that. Remember, these are just my top movies, not the top movies, so be sure to post your own personal top non-DCEU DC movies in the comments below. Alright, let's get this top list started. Coming in at number 5, Joker. So the number 5 spot is never an easy one for me, and this month is no different. There are 4 movies, maybe 5, that are just about equally ranked for me, that happen to fall in this 5th spot. I could have gone with any of them, and maybe if I were to do this list over again in a few months, I'd pick a different one, but I thought Joker would be a good choice from the group, because it's such an outlier. We've had dark takes on comic book characters before, and many of those make this list, but this was something different. It wasn't just a comic book movie, and it honestly didn't really feel like a comic book story. It felt like a grimy, character-driven crime drama from the late 70s or early 80s, and I think it's a story that would have been just as strong and compelling even without the comic book connections. 'Cause this isn't a hero story. And it's not really a villain story either. I mean, it is an origin story for the Joker, but it's not your typical comic book movie. It's a darkly unsettling and pessimistic look at humanity and the circumstances that could lead to somebody becoming something like the Joker. Having won Best Actor that year, Joaquin Phoenix's performance as Arthur Fleck certainly hasn't been underpraised, but it's still fantastic. He takes the Joker in a direction we've never seen before, revealing a deeply disturbed and broken character who's nearly equal parts sympathetic and unforgivable. And so we end up with this uncomfortable and conflicting film. You're constantly fearful of Arthur, but also fearful for him. At times, you want to root for him and his success, but other times you're horrified by him. And I think that makes for such a compelling character. Coming in at number 4, Constantine. So I imagine that this is probably the biggest surprise on this list, since it's definitely the worst film of the bunch, objectively speaking, but I have such a soft spot for this movie. At the time, it felt so unique. It was fun, but also dark and sort of sinister at times. I know that when I first went to see this movie, I had no idea what Hellblazer was, or that this was even a comic book movie at all. So after seeing the DC logo in the credits, I was even more intrigued. I know we like to joke about how dark and serious DC movies are, especially when compared to Marvel, but before this film, comic book movies hadn't really been that dark. We had had a few that were intense, but most were about superheroes and had a very comic book feel to them. Constantine was a horror film about demons and the devil and hell. Speaking of hell, I still adore this film's visual interpretation of hell. Some of the CGI in this movie looks a bit dated now, but anytime I envision what hell should look like, it's this film's version that always pops into my head. Keanu Reeves delivers his archetypal wooden leading man performance here, but as it does with so many of his other action films, it really works here. He plays an extremely cynical character who's got a unique backstory and set of skills. He's an anti-hero, and a very reluctant one at that, which I think makes this story that much more interesting, and again, at the time, that much more unique, because almost everything that had preceded it focused on a superhero. This movie definitely isn't without its problems, but it's one that I always have a great time rewatching. Coming in at number 3, Batman Begins. Man, 2005, huh? Not only was that a huge movie year for me, marking one of my most prolific theater-going years, but it was also a pretty prolific and important year for DC movies, too. The 6th theatrically released Batman movie might not sound like anything to get too excited about, but this was a game changer. Not only did it kick off the Nolan Batman trilogy, but it also formed the foundation for DC's image for years to come. Batman Begins was gritty and realistic, permeated by darkness without the gothic comic bookiness of the Burton films. It was one of the first superhero movies to make it seem like the superheroes were real people, and that the cities they protected were just as real. The realism brought forward by the filmmakers here could only be this groundbreakingly impactful once, and it's fitting that it wasn't about an alien, a god, or a mutant. It was about a man who pushed himself to become greater than what he feared, a man who became a superhero without the benefit of any superpowers. Given the number of on-screen appearances Batman has made over the last half a century, everyone knows about Bruce Wayne's tragic childhood. But what immediately sets this film apart from those other Batman movies is that the focus is on the man himself. We understand his motivations, his fears, and his goals. We see his training, how he gets all of his gadgets, the difficulties of leading a double life when both of those lives are greatly in the public eye. It's an impressively crafted film that works well as its own thing, but also as a setup to the next 2 films in the trilogy. Coming in at number 2, V for Vendetta. Seriously, what was in the water in 2005? Okay, so this didn't actually get a release here in the US until early 2006, but still, it is a 2005 movie. And what a movie it is. This is one of those defining movies of my teenage years, and certainly of this list is the one I've seen the most times. This is an annual watch, at minimum, for me. For the last 15 years now, I've watched this movie on November 5th, and have no intention of ever breaking that tradition. You've probably noticed a bit of a dark trend with my picks for this list, and I would probably say that this is the darkest of them all. It might not be dealing with hell and demons, but pandemics, civil war, political corruption, and anarchy in a dystopian future are pretty dark. One of the things that has continued to impress me through the years is just how perpetually relevant this film is. It's perhaps a sad thing, but I think there will always be parallels between this story and the real world. It was relevant in 1982 when the graphic novel was published. It was relevant in 2005 when the movie came out. It's been eerily relevant the last couple years, and I'm sure it'll still be relevant when we reach its setting of 2038. It's pretty stylized in moments, and the character of V's got a bit of a theatrical flair to him that can seem a little silly at first, but it's a movie with a surprising amount of thematic heft behind it. It's part action film, part anti-hero story, part dystopian political thriller. It blends its not-so-subtle social commentary with a really interesting story and a set of compelling characters to produce a film that I enjoy coming back to year after year. So that means my number 1 non-DCEU DC film is The Dark Knight. I know, this was definitely an out there pick, and I'm sure nobody else is going to have it on their list, but no, of course this was going to be number 1. I'm sure this surprises no one. If you've seen my favorite films from every genre video, you already knew this was coming. And if you haven't, you still probably already knew that this was coming. It might seem like the most obvious and cliche choice, but there's a reason for that. It's a freaking amazing movie. It builds off the already mentioned and fantastic Batman Begins to produce something even more impressive and impactful. It still focuses on Bruce Wayne and his struggles, but broadens to a bigger scope this time. It's an excellent Batman movie, it's an action movie, it's a crime thriller, and so many other things. The performances here are great across the board. Christian Bale reprises his role as Batman, and is still my favorite iteration of the character on screen. Aaron Eckhart provides a fittingly bipolar performance as Harvey Dent, and the cast is loaded with other screen greats like Michael Caine, Gary Oldman, Morgan Freeman, Maggie Gyllenhaal. But the greatest performance here, without question, is Heath Ledger as the Joker. He imbues that character with such a potent combination of elements. He's chaotic, menacing, intriguing, funny, terrifying. You never root for him over Batman, but he's still a bizarrely likable character, and easily the best version of the Joker we've ever had on screen. The Dark Knight is one of those movies whose extreme popularity might cause some to be more dismissive of it now, but no matter how many times I rewatch it, it still brings me back to that first midnight screening in 2008, and I can't help but be awed by it all over again. Alright, so there you have it, my top 5 non-DCEU DC movies. What are your top non-DCEU movies? Be sure to post your own ranking in the comments below, and don't forget to check out the pics of the other members of the Movie Nerds Club. Also, if you're interested in buying any of the movies I mentioned today, I do have affiliate links to all of them in the description below. I get a small commission from anything you buy using one of my links, so I'd really appreciate it if you'd use them if you're in the market for any of these movies. Alright, so if you get some enjoyment, insight, or information out of this top list, I'd appreciate it if you'd hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, please hit subscribe if you're at it to see more videos like this, as well as movie reviews. Till next time, this has been Alyssa with Mainly Movies. The way life should be.